So I saw this headline. The BBC increases its representation targets to 25% after spending nearly $320 million, quote, to drive diversity and inclusion both on and off air.
Well, I guess
That is,
you guys are wondering where your license fee goes, right?
well, that is precisely what I was about to say. Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
well, it's not my money because I don't pay for the dog shit BBC, and I encourage no one else to pay for the BBC either. And this is why we've been getting first generation Rwandan immigrants being hired as Doctor Who, crying about white mediocrity and just generally being racist. The BBC, that's what they're all about, basically. They're all about the BBC, coincidentally. So this is just nonsense. Let's have a look, right? So the British Broadcasting Company announced it will increase its representation targets for its TV production teams from 20% to 25% across all production roles. Look at the state of this as an image. Look at this. So this is Doctor Who. This is some... what am I looking at? And this is what I just... anyway, whatever. In a press release, the company stated, the BBC has launched an ambitious new creative diversity commitments to increase diversity and inclusion within programme-making teams and ensure that the stories told on air are authentically reflective of audiences across the UK. Well, if we shut the fucking borders, you wouldn't need to represent everyone, would you? But because you've got open borders, you've got to represent every Tom, Dick and Harry, or... Tom, Dick, and Abdullah that's just randomly popped up from across way yonder. I mean, just what is this nonsense? It's absolute nonsense. Also, like, when is the BBC going to learn? The viewership's terrible. It's awful. No one's watching it. But they're like, oh, well, it's just because no one's represented. No, it's not. It's because people are represented. And funnily enough, they don't watch this shit anyway, because these things are British institution. You actually have to appeal to British people, not some rando that's just popped up on a fucking boat. Anyway, sorry. I've had enough of this shit. So to that point, it's raising its targets across ethnicity, disability, and socio-economic diversity from 20 to 25% across all production roles. What does that even mean? We're going to get poor people, I guess, is what they're trying to... Is that what? Socioeconomic? Yeah, we're going to get some poor people in here. We're going to get some more cripples, I guess. Like, what is this nonsense? It's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. This is why we end up with this thing. Telling everyone to go touch grass. Well, they did, didn't they? And then it bombed. And now you're fucked.
You didn't like Jinx Monsoon in this role?
No.
Oh.
Shove a face in a blender. That would suit me. Fine. No issues with that.
Look, I mean, at this point, I believe this, and you don't have to. You only have one more season of Doctor Who to deal with, and then it's gone forever. I think we talked about that on Tuesday.
We did. It's not just that, though, right? Like that. This is in everything. And they say, look, not only did the company share that it was increasing its representation targets, but it also revealed it would invest $105 million, quote, in content that meets the BBC's creative diversity criteria for TV and radio. It's not just that's they're going to invest everything in that. That's the whole BBC. They're just doing it. All of it is that. All of it is this shit. Right? You want to watch A Christmas Carol? Very famous, A Christmas Carol? Yeah? Get ready for random Muslim to turn up in A Christmas Carol. Get ready for random black people to turn up in A Christmas Carol. They weren't here. They weren't here. Right? Like, what are you doing? It's so incredibly stupid. You're eroding British history, British culture, all for a modern audience that hates Britain. They don't care. They're not connected to it. It's the very soul of Britain. These stories, this cultural influence that is drip fed throughout society, throughout the years. They don't care. They're here for handouts. They're not interested. They hate you. They don't care that you're going to put some random black person in A Christmas Carol. They don't care that you're going to put some random Muslim in Doctor Who. They're not interested. They couldn't possibly give any less shit about British stories. But they're like, oh, well, we've got to do it. Oh, you fucking pleb. Sorry. As you can tell, I've had enough. It specifically noted this money quote will focus on aligning diverse on-air storytelling with stronger off-air representation in senior production roles and leadership within production. That's right, guys. We're going to hire more black people and Muslims because that's what it is, right? In the UK, that's the totem pole. Okay, so it'll be black people and Muslims. That's the totem pole of diversity. FYI, by the way, I don't have an issue with black people at all. I have an issue with Islam. I'm happy to say that. I think it's an abhorrent ideology. It's fucking awful. But I don't have any issue with black people at all. But that's what all this is going to be. So if you're black, please, God, do not apply for the BBC because you will be literally pushed to the front of the queue and hired simply because of your skin colour through very racist means. It's awful. I would feel so demeaned if I was black and I was like, oh, I'm just going to hire, I want to work at the BBC. No. They're racist. They are racist. Anyway. The company also revealed it spent nearly $320 million over the last 3 years to drive diversity and inclusion, both on and off air. And it had previously pledged around 150 million. Cool. So more people are going to tell us how we're bigots and men are shit. And that's about it, really, I guess. The BBC will also be requiring potential productions to outline their plans to deliver the 25% target. I don't know, hang around a fucking local mosque, I guess. Like, there you go. You're just going to hang around at a local mosque and just hire any people randomly to turn up. This is just pathetic. And how they will apply the inclusive production principles as part of their commissioning process. Jesus. The inclusive production principles require processes are in place for inclusive casting and crew. It also demands that productions will provide specialist hair and makeup stylists to work with Afro-textured hair and a variety of skin tones. Black people. Again, it's just black people and Muslims. That is literally right there. You better hire people that can work on Afro-Caribbean hair, all right? Or Sub-Saharan hair. If you don't, you're racist. Fucking, what is going on? Productions will also have to provide access to diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, training, and resources to foster a culture of inclusion and transparency. Brutal. Disgusting. Disgusting. We're committed to backing British storytelling whilst hiring non-Brits, I guess. And I recognise the important role diverse-led indies play in telling these authentic stories. By increasing our investment in diverse content and enhancing our off-screen diversity targets, we aim to create a more inclusive environment that authentically represents and resonates with all audiences, except British people. Does this resonate with you, fellow Brits? Does it? Well, does it, you bigots? Oh, God, there's more. There's a head of creative diversity at the BBC. Our previous commitment set an industry benchmark, building on the insights gained over the past 3 years. What? Surely the insights, I don't do it then, because the fucking views are down. Our new creative diversity commitments go further to deepen our dedication to making meaningful and lasting changes, both on and off air, particularly in senior roles off air, with influence the creative output. We're focused on leading the way in representation, inclusion, and authenticity. It's not authentic. It's not authentic. It's racist. You're literally putting racist policies in place. It's not authentic. If it was authentic, you'd just be putting blanket. Any ethnicity will just hire the best person for the role. You fucking unbelievable. Anyway, I hate this. Go on, culture. Rip it a new one.
I think any of these types of targets, any of these types of things that put one person, one immutable characteristic in front of another is foul. I think that if you want actual equality, then you have to judge everybody on what they have to offer on their merits. I think that having an entire network, a state television, state TV, government television, which is what BBC is, push forward these ideologies, then you know that they already permeate all the way to the top on throughout, and that's how you are governed by these same principles throughout whatever it is they're doing. And while that is on display in the UK, they were trying to force the same types of situations here in the United States. Again, trying to push the majority, or excuse me, the minority to the levels of equality of the minority into the equal size of the majority is foolhardy, and you are going to lose far more than you could possibly gain. I think as cultures gradually change, things like this happen naturally. But when you've had a steady influx of things that have been rather unnatural in these areas, and the proselytizing that goes with it, you do end up with huge disasters, which I think is pretty much exemplified from almost all of the programming on the BBC. Unfortunately, I have no skin in the game when it comes to the BBC or anything happening in the UK, other than I have friends and family there. So my opinion is what it is, regardless of where I am. I don't want this happening in the United States, where they're pushing all of this stuff, and what I really want is globalism to go away. I want natural cultural shifts and evolution to occur in society. The problem is it wasn't happening fast enough, and when you have incongruity at this scale for this long, you end up with conflict. Conflict is not good for anybody but the people that are trying to encourage it. So ultimately, the BBC is encouraging conflict and rewarding it, reflexively as well. So that's what I think. As far as any of the other stuff, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, people believe what they believe. I can't control that. I'm not, as much as I would demonize this forced stuff. I try not to demonize people, and I try not to, unless obviously they're truly, terrible humans. I really don't have much else to add other than that. I'm frustrated. I mean, I'm frustrated on your behalf, but I'm frustrated because there were things that I enjoyed coming out of the BBC. There were things I enjoyed coming out of the UK. There are very few, if not any of those left. So there you are.
Proper poo.
Yeah.
T. Neil says, so they're desperate and tantruming. Nothing new there. But as ever, the question is, why now? What are they distracting you from? And what's the pressure source? That would be the Communist Labour Party that we've got in power at the moment. That is literally what it is.
Arresting people for opinions in your country.
Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. Hate all of this stuff. Go away. Be gone. Anyway, let's move on. Anyway.